And welcome into the second episode of Timeout with the Guys. I am Brad Burden. Alongside with me here is Carter Foley. Carter, good to see you tonight.
Yeah, good to be back and streaming. Obviously, we took a little bit of a week off, not intentional. Obviously, we had some storms here in Iowa, so yeah, but it's going to be a fun show tonight. I'm excited.
Yeah, certainly was. Last week did not go live as we expected to because a big massive storm came through the state of Iowa, which is where we are at, and yeah, we were without power for almost a week. That really sucked.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
It was a bad time.
It was not fun. That's the nicest way to put it. But either way, we're back. We got a great show tonight, and boy, it's been a pretty hectic week with the NBA playoffs happening. A lot of good matchups happening. I would definitely say, boy, there's just been quite the upsets too. You could definitely say that, boy. But with so many, like I said, so many teams just, like I said, pulling off the upset victory there. Players, too, getting hurt. Ejections, of course, happening there as well. It's just been definitely a crazy time right now. Starting to see more of the emotions come out of these players, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it's that time of year, when the NBA playoffs are right around the corner. Obviously, we've played a few games now, and you start to see the intensity. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different format this year. Obviously, the players being in a bubble situation. But, yeah, like you said, it's still that playoff intensity. The virtual fans obviously help a lot. But, yeah, it's still all these teams that are in the playoffs right now, they have one thing in mind, and that's to win a ring, get a chip. And, it was a lot of good games that have been played the last few days, and it's going to be like this for a few more months, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, speaking of one of those games right here, our first one we have is the Sixers and the Celtics right there. Great playoff matchup right here. The Celtics going up 2-0 in this series so far. And when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers right now, it's just been kind of a tough break for them, obviously with Ben Simmons being hurt right now, which we'll get into here in just a little bit. But the Celtics have really just been playing phenomenal basketball lately. I know our first episode we talked about Jason Tatum, how he had the rough start, but eventually though he's been really kind of catching on here, been really leading the way. No doubt that the Celtics are his team right now. And final score in this one, boy, like you look at the graphics right there, 128-101. No doubt Boston was in command in this game throughout most of it, and boy, they really took a big 2-0 lead right here. And for the Sixers, when you're down 2-0 right now, this is definitely going to be a critical moment right there for them. You really have to. This is now a must-win situation for the Sixers, and if they lose this one, boy, Boston's going to be riding the way, no doubt. I think all the way with a possible sweep. So, been a really fun series so far. Like I said, Boston. Really, it's just been for the Celtics how it's been so far, how the years have transpired. Last night we talked about with Brad Stevens taking over as the head coach back in the summer of 2013, and they kind of had those struggling years. Not a whole lot of struggling years, but they traded away Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. Rajon Rondo was coming off an ACL injury, and then we kind of started to see the progress of a new team come into place. And of course, they signed Al Horford about 4 years ago. But then, of course, now he's playing against his former team.
Yeah.
Now the Celtics on the Sixers. So for the Celtics, it's really just been kind of quite the turnaround for them. Got Kyrie for a few years, but then he eventually leaves to go off to play for the Nets. But for the Celtics, so to maintain this type of competitiveness, that's very impressive. And no doubt, this is. Again, they're just it just shows you how in the NBA you can lose maybe a really good player. Of course, with Kyrie, the injuries were always kind of there for him, so he's never like the guy that you could for sure promise on to stay fully healthy. But I think for the Celtics, so right now, they're definitely having their way right now with the Sixers. But like I said, with Ben Simmons being hurt, several players like Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid having to step up in probably different roles they did not expect to. And boy, for the Sixers, like I said, they are now in a must-win situation.
Yeah, and the Sixers, obviously Ben Simmons is their top player. I would say Joel Embiid is a close second, but we're seeing why right now that the Sixers need Simmons so badly. He really was their best passer in transition too, and they're missing a lot of transition points. And that's what the Sixers usually do pretty well in, but without Simmons, it's been a lot, very difficult. And obviously, Joel Embiid had a way better game this game. I think Brett Brown fed into the criticism a little bit. He needed to, get Embiid a little bit more involved with the offense, and Embiid ended up scoring 34 points and also having 10 rebounds on the game. But yeah, like you mentioned, the Celtics, they've done a great job. Obviously, they may have like 1 or 2 years since 2013 that they've been just okay, but the rest of the time they've been really good. And obviously, we'll get into the Gordon Hayward injury in a little bit too. But I still think the Celtics, get the brooms ready. I really think they're going to sweep the 76ers. And the best part about it, too, for the Celtics is that they're in the bubble. So really, there's no home court advantage in this playoffs. Obviously, you get the virtual fans and things like that. But we all know it's not really home court advantage. So I really do think the Celtics are going to sweep the 76ers. I just think it's too much of a blow for them that they don't have Ben Simmons. He's obviously the best player, and they're seeing why in this one.
Yeah, certainly it is. Definitely without your best player, Ben Simmons there, the Sixers are going to have to step up in big roles that they did not expect to, like I mentioned. And when you look at the Celtics here, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, all scoring there right there in double figures with 10 or more points each. Tatum, of course, leading the way there with 33, and then Walker there with 22, and then Brown 20. So really just shows you there, too. It's not just one player specifically leading the way. It's all four of those guys right there. So really, it's just been phenomenal by the Celtics, able to play together as a team full on. And then obviously with Enes Kanter too, scoring 10 points as well off the bench there, 4 or 7. Really good bench production right there from the Celtics there as well. So really starting to see all the team come together here. And for the Sixers there, Joel Embiid leading the way with 34 points, but other than that, though, it's just been kind of a rough, time for the Sixers. Tobias Harris scoring 13, but 4 out of 15, though. Mm-hmm. Pretty rough right there. Al Horford, 2 out of 3, only just 4 points in 23 minutes. So I don't know for the Sixers, try to get him more involved in a way, but right now, though, could be pretty tough at this point. But like you said, they'll get the brooms ready for the Sixers or for the Celtics, really, because they're definitely looking to lead the way right here. But definitely it's been a fun playoff series so far. This is why, of course, at this time of the year here in late August, we did not expect to be watching this type of NBA playoffs with all what's been happening so far this year. But at this point right now, I think we're pretty happy with what's been going on. And like I said, so many good games happening right here. And, of course, another good game happening was the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. And, boy, this game was very competitive, as you can see all the way right there. And for the Miami Heat, of course, coming out there with the victory 109-100. And for the Heat, though, it's been quite the year for them that they expected to have. Obviously, with Jimmy Butler signing him away in free agency from Philadelphia. So Jimmy Butler, no doubt, has been kind of a guy that's grown over the years, really just been playing good basketball. Obviously, we saw him grow in Chicago. Then he gets traded off to Minnesota. Of course, he's always been kind of that guy, gets a little hot-headed, which is why he's been playing with several different teams over the past couple of years. But for the Miami Heat, though, really been able to kind of keep up here, especially after when LeBron left the first time. Well, when he left the Miami Heat to go back to the Cavs for the second time in 2014. But able to kind of see the Heat, though, still play at that competitive advantage, still able to produce good winning basketball there. And I'll tell you what, for the Miami Heat, and no, don't count them out just yet. I think they definitely have something here in store. They could definitely possibly upset a lot of, they could make a run for it. But definitely going to be tough for sure because you look at teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, they're in the East. But I definitely think Miami, though, they definitely have something in store for possibly a deeper playoff run than fans, expect.
Yeah, obviously, the Heat made those trades during the middle of the season to get Andre Iguodala as well as Crowder. But yeah, I mean, today the Miami Heat had 5 players that scored over 10 points today. And Duncan Robinson was their highest scorer. He basically shot 7 of 8 from 3-point range. So obviously that's incredible shooting, and we know what he's capable of. And he just makes those 3-pointers. But yeah, I mean, the Heat did play really good. Obviously, the Pacers were pretty close. I actually thought when I was watching the game that they were maybe going to come back and try to win it, but the Heat were just too much. Goran Dragic had a really good game today, 20 points for him, as well as 6 assists. So really great numbers for him. Obviously, he's been kind of quiet this season, obviously coming off the bench here and there, starting some games. He did start this game. But yeah, the Miami Heat, I definitely could see them making a deep playoff run, and like you mentioned, upsetting a few teams. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how far they make it. But I definitely do see the Miami Heat winning this series against the Pacers in probably about 6 games.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the Heat, of course, up in this series too. Right now, sort of the Pacers, they are also in a must-win situation here right now. But I definitely think from the Miami Heat, like we said, boy, it's unfortunate we couldn't see the entire full season come into play once the COVID-19 pandemic started to become a much bigger issue back in March. But now, of course, we're starting to see teams, see what they're able to do now in these type of playoff situations. So definitely, for the Miami Heat, they are definitely, I think, going to make a deep playoff run. Wouldn't that be shocked if it does end up being a Bucks and Heat Eastern Conference Finals? That would not surprise me at all. I think the Heat definitely have something here in store to to put up a good run. And like you talked about there too, all five, or excuse me, 4 starters there. Like talked about there with the Celtics, there, all 4 out of 5 starters putting up double figures right there. Like I said, with Duncan Robinson leading the way there too with 24 points. So like I talked about with Jimmy Butler, kind of struggled here today, but really I think his big moments were those free throws and 2 out of 3 from the 3-point line. That was big right there. So overall, not a bad day for Jimmy Butler. Still kind of struggling up at times, but hey, that's why you have your teammates there to kind of pick you up there whenever you're not playing up to your best. And for the Heat, though, that's what they did. They picked each other up, and that's how they were able to get the win. Competitive game, like you talked about there too. The Pacers, scoring more points in the first and third quarters the first and fourth quarters there than the Heat. But the Heat were able just to kind of keep up with them, scoring 37 in the third quarter. So I think played a huge advantage right there into their victory. And fourth quarter there too was just kind of back and forth there. Like I said, with the Pacers leading the way in scoring, but at the end though, the Heat end up with the win. So I think that was just a big, again, that third quarter, though, played a big role in the Heat victory, like I mentioned.
Yeah, and the Pacers, they didn't play bad either. I mean, obviously all 5 of their starters scored over double figures as well. But, T.J. Warren was kind of that superhero at the beginning of the regular season in the bubble.
Yeah.
But today, only just 14 points, 7 of 15 shooting, 0 of 5 from three-point range. So, obviously, we've seen him play better. We've seen him even, play against some pretty good teams as well. But yeah, it's interesting to see that he only, didn't have a great game. But I think he's probably going to bounce back in Game 3. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But I also think Miles Turner definitely needs to, get into the 25, 30-point range in order for his team to do better and possibly get a win too.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I think in order to have these victories, in order to come out here with the win, players have to be able to produce more. And unfortunately, like I said, for Miles Turner, that was not the case right there for him. So definitely for the Pacers, like we talked about there too, TJ Warren scoring 50 points there at the beginning when the season got back underway. But lately, though, it's just been it's kind of been a little bit quiet there for him. But still, I think definitely they have something in store right here. But definitely got to expect more from the Pacers. So hopefully they can put up a fight right here. But the Miami Heat, no doubt, have they have a lot of momentum right now, and that's what's really going to count here towards the end. Another good game we have here was the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets. The Jazz winning just by almost 20 points there, 124 to 105. For the Jazz, I'll admit, like we talked about here too last night with Gordon Hayward. Again, we'll get to Gordon Hayward here in just a little bit here about his injury. But when we saw Gordon Hayward leave the Jazz, I believe it was the summer of 2017 when he went to go sign with the Boston Celtics, people thought, okay, the Jazz are going to be going through some rebuilding years now, maybe about 2 to 3 years. Of course, now it's been that time frame right now, but people did not expect the Jazz, I think, to be back in this soon, I think. But like we talked about with the NBA, rebuilds and retooling years can go by pretty quickly for them. You can lose. I want to say you can lose a superstar, but still be dominant. But you can still be a really good contending team. And I think with the Jazz, they've been able to do that. Obviously with Donovan Mitchell, really, again, he's just evolved so much as a superstar player over the past couple of years. And what a phenomenal game he had. 10 out of 14, 30 points. Just, again, a terrific game right there by him. And Rudy Gobert, 7 out of 10, 19 points there. 7 out of 10, or 5 out of 8 at the free-throw line. So I definitely think for the Jazz, it's been really going good for them lately. Obviously, tensions did arise there with Gobert and Mitchell after Gobert tested positive. He was the first player to test positive for the coronavirus, and then Mitchell eventually got it and just started to spread around the NBA for quite some time. And really, it looked like there too the relationship between those two players was not going to be good from there on out. But luckily, though, I think they were able to get things resolved and able to resume playing at a high level. So I think for the Jazz, that was very critical that those two guys worked those differences out. Because I get it, it's frustrating for sure because Gobert was the first player to get COVID and stop the league almost immediately after he tested positive. But for the Jazz, though, a big win for them. Boy, they've been really a fun team to watch here so far. Same with Denver too. I know tough loss for them, series now tied up at 1 apiece. But I definitely think though for the Nuggets though. Now it's time to get back. They had to get back going. Obviously, with Michael Porter Jr., 10 out of 17, 28 points. Not a bad day for him. And Michael Porter really been kind of a terrific story right here. Here's a guy that only played 3 games at college down in Missouri, but then had the back surgeries, missed his entire rookie season. People were wondering, is he going to be the same player? Is he going to be able to produce, or does he need to go down to the G League or whatever the case may be? But he's really been playing at a high level so far, and I'm very impressed with Porter on how he's been able to adjust to the league so far with such little college experience and such little playing time there as well. So it just kind of shows, there too. It's players can only play so many years of college. Like Kyrie only played a couple games of college before he got hurt, but look at that now. Of course, still gets hurt from time to time, but able though to still produce at a high level when he is healthy. So I definitely think for the Nuggets though, like I said, tough loss for them, but no doubt I think though this series though is going to be kind of going back and forth in a way. But no doubt for the Jazz right now, momentum has definitely switched ways to their side, you could say.
Yeah, I definitely think this is one of my favorite playoff series right now, just because of kind of like you mentioned, there's so many different guys that can score the basketball, and when you're watching the game too, you never know who really is going to win the game until it's finally over. But both teams are very evenly matched, and I definitely think this is going to go to a Game 7. I just think both teams are extremely equal. But yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, Donovan Mitchell is just a beast, like you mentioned, the 30 points for him. He scored 57 in the first game. I mean, that's just obviously incredible numbers, and he's only, in his third or fourth year now. So just incredible performances of the last two games, and even Jordan Clarkson played really well for the Jazz too. He scored 26 points on 9 of 18 shooting. So again, really good performances by all those guys, and obviously. If you look at the graphics too, it shot pretty evenly for the most part. Obviously, the Jazz had a little bit more assists as well, and the points in the paint, 20 more points in the paint for the Jazz. So I mean, at the end of the day, that's ultimately why they won the game. So, but yeah, really evenly matched. Definitely excited to see kind of how this is going to play out.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And like you talked about there too, with the Jazz, having the better better field goal percentage. Right there, assists really do matter now today. Of course, in the NBA, that's really going to be, I think, the most critical point there when you look at the stat sheet. So I definitely think for the Jazz to be able to share the basketball and not be so selfish with it, that was big on their part right there. So again, it's just a really phenomenal game by them. And boy, talk about Donovan Mitchell too, still being a very young player here today. Like he's talked about, only been in the league for a few years, but really has such evolved as a terrific player, and really it's just been. He's been one of those fun players to watch right there. So I'm definitely excited to see how he's going to keep on progressing as years carry on and stuff, because, boy, we're starting to see kind of like now a new trend here in the NBA with these young superstars coming up to play, like Zion, of course, there with the Pelicans, Joe Morant with the Grizzlies, and then, of course, Mitchell being in the league for a few years. So we're starting to kind of see a new trend here. We saw the LeBron, Kevin Durant, and now, of course, like I talked about, these young superstars, Doncic even for the Mavericks. So really, this is kind of really an exciting time to be an NBA fan, seeing these new young guys come up and play. So this is going to be fun to watch for years to come.
Yeah, I love watching the young guys play, and obviously, like we talked about, Donovan Mitchell, incredible game. The Joker, too, had a pretty good game as well. Obviously, we know what he's capable of. Usually is a triple-double machine, just 4 assists shy of that, but for the most part, yeah, a really good game. By him. But yeah, I mean, the league is in good hands. I believe LeBron has said that before too. There's just so many young superstars, like you mentioned, and it's just awesome to watch, especially in the playoffs. You get to watch those young talent kind of fight it out at the arena, and it's just a excellent and fun atmosphere as well.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's just a really fun time right now. Like I mentioned, these young guys really showing what they can do, especially at a young level. Of course, we'll look at Doncic. I think he kind of has a little bit more advantage there, playing pro basketball overseas for quite some time and coming over to the NBA. So really just a really good, phenomenal player, great phenomenal player, you could definitely say for him. But now, speaking of Luka Doncic and the Mavs, they had a big win last night against the LA Clippers, and what the hell happened to the Clippers? The first quarter, I think the first 10 minutes, they only had 2 points.
Yeah,
it was just a crapshoot for them. I mean, Doc Rivers was getting so angry last night. He was livid with the team, and I don't know. I mean, eventually they started picking it up, but eventually it was too little, too late. I think that's what happens there.
It's interesting because that's also how the Mavericks started Game 1 too. So it's like they kind of did a little role reversal.
So is Game 3 just gonna be like, oh, okay, Clippers start off with the 20-2 lead?
I think is
this how it's gonna be now?
I think so. Yeah,
well, we'll see. But no, for the Clippers, I mean, I don't know what happened last. I mean, Series is tied at 1 apiece. You have two very competitive teams here right now with the Mavs and the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers, of course, hard to believe it's been over a year now since Kawhi now has been with the team technically, because he signed last summer. Now he's still technically in his first season, so it is a little odd there to say. Same with Paul George there as well. But yeah, for the Clippers last night, oh man, just a tough loss for them. Again, they started getting going there after their slow start, but like I said, it was too little too late. The Mavs didn't look back at all, and eventually they pulled through, got the win. And Kawhi, a good game for him last night. I mean, 10 out of 21, a little sluggish right there, but 35 points. Of course, a lot of those points came off the free throw line there. But other than that, though, boy, Paul George really struggling. 4 out of 17, 14 points. Boy, if you talk about Paul George, if he got some more points right there too, got about maybe 25 points there, and some other players too for the Clippers off the bench there too. Definitely could have been a different outcome possibly for them, but for the Clippers, though, a very slow start for them last night. And the Mavs, like I talked about, they were just able to come out here with the win. And the Clippers, just a very bad start for them. Just a very bad start.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, you got to give credit to the Dallas Mavericks. They played excellent from start to finish, and even the Mavericks led the whole time, and the Clippers never led. So definitely got to give them credit. Obviously shot better, had more assists. Doncic and Porzingis. I love that combo. I love what they're doing in Dallas. I think they're going to be good for many years to come. Obviously, they're not going to let Porzingis or Doncic slip away. They're going to be probably Mavericks for a very, very, very long time. Obviously, we know that Kristaps Porzingis already signed a 5-year contract, so he still has 4 more years after this season. So it's really good if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan. You're in a good position, obviously, back to the playoffs, something that they're used to seeing. Obviously, had a few years where they didn't go at all. But yeah, just really good performance by them. And even, had 3 players off the bench, Boban, Trey Burke, as well as Seth Curry, score over double figures. So that kind of scoring definitely did help them. But yeah, like you mentioned too with the Clippers, Paul George did not have a good game at all, and also after the game too, he's seen icing his shoulder as well. So obviously, hope, because he's had shoulder injuries before, so hopefully you have to, hope he's going to be okay, and he won't miss any games, because when he's got it going, I mean, he could be definitely very scary, especially with Kawhi out there as well. So just an off game for the Clippers, and if you're a Clippers fan, definitely wouldn't really worry about it. I think they're going to be fine. But Doncic and Kawhi, obviously the 2 stars of the game, both scoring 35 points. But yeah, just a really good game.
Yeah, talk about there too with Paul George being injured. Of course, people forget, and of course I forgot this too, about how he missed the first couple games due to the shoulder surgery that he had last year in the offseason, and then back in 2014 with Team USA, suffered the compound fracture there in his leg, almost missed the entire 2014-15 season, but somehow he came back to play the final games of the season, just to kind of show how fast he can come back, and that was really remarkable right there for him. But I think Skip Bayless last night tweeted, Paul George is being back to being George Paul. Didn't make any sense to me. Of course, with Skip, you don't know what you're going to get out of him most of the time. He's crazy on Twitter. So Skip Bayless, I don't know what his deal is sometimes. Again, he's crazy, but again, he is who he is, so nothing we can do about that. But no, I think with Paul George, though, for sure, just again, like you said, an off game for him. I think no doubt he comes back in Game 3, has a much better performance there. I think the Clippers all around do too. This could definitely be a close matchup there, not just by 14 points, but I think it could be maybe a possible 5-point win for either team, whoever comes up with the win. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, for the Mavericks, so boy, it's like you talked about there too. Once they won the NBA Finals back in 2011, there with Dirk on the team. I know Jason Kidd was on that team as well. Still did pretty well, but then come about 2014-15, had some off years there too. We're really struggling at one point, but then once Doncic came over, they started rebuilding, got some good young players there in their system. It really started to become more of a competitive team here once again, and Doncic still leading the way with the Mavs. And Christian Porzingis, he's just been a great player since he came over from the Knicks. Definitely getting out of New York was the best thing for Porzingis. That was the best case for him to go play for a competitive team, play for a team that's still young. You could say retooling in some ways, but right now, though, they're at a point where they can start taking off to compete for a possible maybe championship in the near future. And, of course, Porzingis, we'll get to him in just a little bit. He got ejected, which I thought was a load of BS.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that here later on. But again, a really good game there. And speaking of good games there too, boy, it's been really quite the NBA playoff matchups here so far. This one, the Thunder and the Rockets. Of course, the Westbrook still being out there with the Thunder. Or with the Rockets, excuse me.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
We'll
Always happens. I mean, Chris Paul, boy. See, this is the funny thing is James Harden, Westbrook used to play for the Thunder, as we all know. But then, of course, Harden, though, he's been gone for quite some time. So really, I think this series doesn't matter to him a whole lot, probably. But for Westbrook, though, it probably would mean something for him since, he did play for the Thunder, won an MVP there as well. Chris Paul, then playing for the Rockets. So last year before he got traded to the Thunder, and of course, in that big trade that they did there with the Rockets and the Thunder. Of course, that was quite the trade that we all did not expect. But this one, though, right here, of course, the Rockets still come out here with the victory, 111-98. And boy, James Harden really just since he got traded to the Rockets back in 2012, he's just really evolved as a superstar player, scoring so many points per season, just leading the way in most categories right there. So I think really for the Rockets, so at this point right now, of course, without Westbrook, Harden knew he had to step up his game probably a bit more, and eventually that's what happened right there for him. And of course, with this series right now, it's just been really quite the battle so far, you can say. But for the Rockets, no doubt, a good win there right there for them. Hopefully Westbrook comes back here soon.
Yeah, I definitely think if the Rockets get Westbrook back in Game 3 or even Game 4, I think the Rockets are definitely going to move on in advance. I think the Thunder definitely needed to win this game today. They had their opportunity. Obviously, it was a really good fourth quarter for Houston. They ended up scoring 34 points while OKC only scored 20. So, obviously they're a little bit shy there. And, I definitely think Steven Adams definitely has to have a little bit better game. He's only had 8 points. I'd like to see him get a little bit more involved too. I know it's obviously the stars Gilgeous-Alexander and Paul and Gallinari. They did their thing. They scored a lot. I definitely think they got to feed the big man. And the reason why I say that is obviously we know that the Rockets have that small ball lineup. So I just don't think there's anybody unless obviously the Rockets brought in Tyson Chandler, who's their technical center when he does play. I think. The Thunder could really do some damage with him down in the post, and he can make those shots as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they want to pass the ball out to the shooters and the scorers and things like that. I definitely get that, but it would just be interesting to see him maybe get a little bit more involved and not just shooting 4 shots, but maybe shooting anywhere from 8 to 10.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And for the Rockets, still up now 2-0 in this series. For the Thunder, now this is a must-win right there for them. I think always when you're down 2-0 in the series, you definitely have to come back and win right here because being down 3-0, that's just going to play a much bigger advantage to the other team that's up 3-0. So I definitely think for the Thunder going into the next game here, that has to be a must-win right there for them. So for the Thunder, they really got to regroup here and just start to come out there, start hot right away, like talk about there too, in the fourth quarter, scoring only just 20 points, 19 also in the third quarter as well. So scoring only just 39 points there in the second half, really now working out well there for them. And for the Rockets, so scoring 34, like you mentioned there too, that really helped them play a key role in getting this victory. So I think definitely for the Rockets, again, that really helped them out get this win, and definitely going to be something to watch out for. I'm really excited to see how the rest of the series is going to play out. So again, I know for Chris Paul, this series means a lot to him, playing against his former team, playing against a former teammate in James Harden, where he thought those two guys played very well together, but had some differences there, and that's eventually what led to the trade. And who knew that they would meet up in the playoffs here.
And you definitely have to give the Thunder credit. They weren't even, projected to make the playoffs this season at all. So you got to give them credit for being a 5 seed this season. They've been playing excellent during the regular season. Obviously, it's a sore subject, me talking about the Thunder. Obviously, they used to be the Seattle Sonics, but you got to give credit where credit's due. They're a really good team. They were even talking about when they even signed Chris Paul that they were going to just trade him off, and it ended up not a lot of teams weren't really interested, or the Thunder couldn't get what they wanted for him, so they ended up just keeping him, and it's worked out pretty well. Obviously, you're down 2-0, but if they win Game 3, I say it's going to be a little bit more even of a series, but yeah, it's definitely a must-win for Game 3 for the Thunder.
I remember right away when Chris Paul got traded to the Thunder, they're already saying that he's going to be traded to the Miami Heat then here shortly. But no, it's worked out pretty well for him, like we talked about it too. And I know for you, you're kind of a little salty about the Thunder because
sensitive.
They used to be the Sonics. # bring back the Sonics.
Yeah, hey, yep. Absolutely.
Seattle needs they need a basketball team back. They do. That was ridiculous why they would do that. I mean, Seattle is such a much bigger market there than OKC, but it is what it is at this point. So who knows? I'm sure they'll get their team back someday. It's just a matter of time when. But hey, you got the hockey team now. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I have to be grateful for the little things.
Yeah, I'm just glad your teams are good. Well, the Seahawks are, and
yeah,
my football team is below average. So
we don't have to talk about that. It's not football season yet. Almost. Then we can start talking about it.
Yeah, and we'll see if we even get to football season. That's gonna be the big question. Do we even have a football season?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that here in just a little bit before I start raging. Probably, it's okay. But but it's funny though how we looked at the Thunder because Chris Paul when he was traded to them, we were thinking about the Thunder because honestly that trade that they'd made out with the Rockets, that was a really good deal for them. The Thunder got some really good draft picks for the next coming years, so I mean that's gonna play a big role into how they do in the future. And Chris Paul with a guy who's now getting up into his probably. You could say he's still in his prime, but now getting up into his mid to upper 30s now, still playing very competitive basketball. I know back when I was in New York in March watching them play against the Knicks. Of course, the Knicks, not a good team. But the Thunder, though, and Chris Paul are just playing very good basketball. And the thing about Chris Paul is he's not going to light you up with his scoring most of the time. It's going to be his good passing abilities and his assists. That's what makes him such a really key player, I think, in the NBA, which is why he's on State Farm, of course, because he assists. So, no, but Chris Paul, he's been such a fun player to watch over the years. Back when the Hornets were in New Orleans, and then he played for the Clippers, and then he goes off to the Thunder or to the Rockets before the Thunder. So, really, he's just been such a fun player to watch, and no doubt, I think when he retires, the Hall of Fame will be calling his name.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a guy like Chris Paul, too, it's kind of like when you join a team, obviously the Thunder weren't expected to do anything, but Chris Paul has this little thing about him that he just makes his teams better in a way. He joins the team and ends up being a good team. Obviously, we saw with the Clippers, they weren't great. He joins, all of a sudden they were really good. And same thing with the Rockets. Obviously, they were all pretty good, pretty established teams. But then when he joined, he kind of put them over the edge. Obviously, he could never win a championship with those teams, but he still does. He's still been really a good piece and a great starter for them. But like you mentioned, definitely a Hall of Fame player.
He's a team player, which is why I think it makes him so much better. Which is why whatever team he's been on, which is why they started to evolve. Of course, with the Clippers, Blake Griffin was starting to come up there with them, and he eventually became. Those two guys were, they played well together. And then he goes off to the Rockets. Him and Harden did well together. Now he's off with the Thunder. Kind of now leading the own way. Now, Steven Adams has been a really good player, but now Chris Paul, though, he's kind of like the main focus now for the team. So, I mean, that's going to be a good thing right there for him. But, for the Thunder, though, kind of going back to the series now, this is a must-win for them. I think Chris Paul, no doubt, will come out here, I think, much more hungrier than he was in this game. 6 out of 15, only just 14 points. So, I definitely think we'll see a much more savage Chris Paul maybe. Again, we'll have to wait and see how that's all going to play out. But, boy, like I talked about here, too, a lot of good matchups happening here so far in the playoffs. And like I said, quite the upsets here, too, with, of course, I know with the Magic and the Bucks here in the first game. And, boy, for the Bucks, though, man, again, just a very slow game right there for them. Did not expect this type of performance for them in the first game. Of course, right now in the second game, they are winning currently as of right now. But in the first game, though, boy, a team like that, though, against the Magic, boy, you did not expect the Bucks, though, to come out here playing slow basketball. Of course, at the beginning of the game, they were playing really good, but then eventually they started to slow down, and eventually they could not get back to where they once were. And for the Magic, though, they just kept on playing very good basketball and were able to ride away here with the victory.
Yeah, Magic, definitely give them credit. A lot of their starters played really good. Almost all of them scored in double figures. Evan Fournier was just 1 point shy of that, but Vucevic had a really good game, 35 points for him. James Ennis, former 76er, scored 11 points. Markelle Fultz, also former 76er, 15 points. So really good game for the 76ers. Terrence Ross, DJ Augustine, 11 and 18 points. So, I mean, really good game by them. Obviously, Giannis was a little bit, obviously he did what he does best and score the ball, get rebounds and things like that. Also had 7 assists, so just 3 assists shy of a triple-double. But yeah, just a difficult game for the Bucks. Definitely needed a little bit more help off the bench. as well as Brook Lopez didn't have a great game, only 5 points. We know he's capable of sometimes when he can get the scoring going, and it just wasn't it for them. But like you mentioned, they're definitely playing a lot better this game, the game 2, I should say, which is happening live as we speak. So, definitely I think if, they win game 2, they're going to be perfectly fine. I definitely see them advancing against the Magic. I see them advancing in 5 or 6 games. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see.
And speaking of game 2, that game has now just been concluded, and the Bucks did win 111-96. And talk about Brook Lopez there too, having a really struggling first game. In the second game, 20 points, 8 out of 12 shooting, 4 out of 8 3-point line. So
there we go.
A very good rebounding game right there for Brook Lopez. Giannis, 10 out of 23, 28 points there. Chris Middleton, of course, only scoring 2 points, 1 out of 8. So a struggling game right there for him. But hey, when you're struggling, but your team picks you up though and helps you come out with the win. That's gonna be the key thing right there. And for the Bucks, they were able to do that here in game 2, but definitely the game 1, as we saw right here, just in the fourth quarter, just a very slow process right there for him, just not playing up to speed right there. And again, just a very tough first game for them, but the second game, they're able to come back, no doubt. I think people did not count out the Bucks yet. Of course for the Magic, great way to start the playoff series for sure with a win. But right now, though, I think for the Bucks, though, this is definitely going to be this is a big win right here for them. And who knows how the series is going to play out. And so we kind of see these low seed teams that are in the playoffs pull off the upsets before. So you can't be shocked when that comes to when that happens. But I think for the Bucks, though, a much better game here in game 2. Obviously, the first game, though, of course, like we talked about, a slow game. Giannis, not a bad game still for him. 31 points, 12 out of 25 there. Excuse me. But really, I think though for the Bucks, though, again with Brook Lopez having a much better game, this was the key role in them having this victory, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with him not scoring that many points, definitely would have not been in it at all. But yeah, definitely got to give him credit. Really good game. But like you mentioned, give game 2 to the Bucks, and it's gonna be interesting to see what game 3 brings. I think the Bucks are definitely gonna be pretty hungry as well. And I definitely see the Bucks, like I mentioned earlier, definitely winning in about 5 or 6 games. So it's gonna be interesting. But I say if the Magic win game 3, it's gonna be a little bit more intense.
So you got the Magic. Magic taking game 3. Well,
yeah, I give them credit. I think they're going to bounce back, and I think they have opportunities that they play really good some games, and they're kind of off a little bit. But I say game 3 they're going to bounce back, and I think they're gonna win.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how that all plays out. But no, I think for the Bucks right now, though. Again, they've been such a fun team to watch over the past couple of years. I'll talk about their young superstars. Giannis was a guy I didn't mention, which I feel pretty ashamed of, because he is such a guy that's been so much fun to watch since he came over from Greece to the NBA. And I definitely think, for a team like Milwaukee, they're in a small market, not like LA, Chicago, New York, where they're out in the big cities. Milwaukee is a small city, still a decent-sized city, but to see him possibly get an NBA championship, that would be phenomenal. Even for me as a Bulls fan, I'd be so happy if they did that. I think it'd be great for the city, great for the team. It just shows you too how these small market teams can do with these types of players, and I think that's going to be a big thing for them. Can they get to the net? Can they get to the finals? Because last year we really thought could this be a potential Bucks and Warriors finals, but eventually the Raptors and Kawhi though ended up being the team from the East. So I definitely think it's going to be a really fun playoff series, like talk about there too with the Magic. Who knows? Game 3, they'll come out hungry, trying to fire off right away. Same with the Bucks there too. But this series is far from over. So I definitely think for both teams, this series could go possibly 6, maybe even 7 games. Who knows? The Magic really been a team that's improved over the past couple of seasons. Once they traded Dwight Howard to the Lakers. Of course, that was way back in 2012, but still kind of going through that process, new coaches. I know Stan McGundy was there for quite some time. But I think for the Magic right now, though, this is a point where they can start to take off and eventually become a team that could compete as well. A lot of good competitive teams right here so far are really just showing what they can possibly do. So it could be really exciting to see how this all turns out.
Yeah, obviously the Bucks can't really afford to lose Giannis either. Obviously, if they were to get out in the first round of this year, it's not looking so good that he would ever, come back to Milwaukee. Obviously, he still owes them another year, but I think he would be starting to engage in conversations with other teams and maybe even ask for a trade. Obviously, he has that capability. He has that star status where somebody would come and try to get him out of there. So it's going to be interesting. I think if the Bucks can make a deep playoff run and make it to the finals, I think he would stay with Milwaukee long term. But obviously, if you're the Bucks, you really can't afford to lose a first or second round series against any of these teams. I mean, the Bucks at this point, they've built a team that's meant to go to the finals and even win a championship. So obviously, if they were to get out in the first round or second round, it's not looking good for Giannis. And we'll see what happens to him. But I mean, obviously, good game, good second game for the Bucks, 1-1, and now they get to play again.
Yeah, I never want to make these type of predictions on what's going to possibly happen down in the future, because every time I say, oh, yeah, that's not going to happen, I don't see this player leaving this team, it never works out. So I'm always wrong because this is football, but I never said Tom Brady's going to lead the Patriots. Well, look what happened. He left the Patriots and signed with Tampa Bay. But I know, and like when I said like with Anthony Davis too, I think, oh yeah, he won't leave New Orleans. But eventually, he wanted to leave, and I don't blame him too. He definitely, that was the best thing for him and for the team as well. But that's in the past now. But I definitely think though with his contract though, definitely going to be up for renewal and stuff. Who knows what's going to happen? Because if the Bucks say, well, we can't work out a deal with you, he might say, well, then I don't want to be here anymore. Trade me somewhere else where somebody might want me. And then they'll sign me to a contract extension. We'll see what happens with that. Or he'll test out the market himself. I think players always owe it to themselves to test out the market if they choose to. I think that's always fair to them because, hey, they've worked for the opportunity to see what's out there for them. Of course, it comes down to what they've accomplished with the previous team. If they feel like, I'm doing really well, but the team I'm on right now, though, we haven't got to where we want to be at, and I still want to be here, hey, that's all up to you. But if you feel like, hey, I'm ready to move on now at this point, give myself a new challenge, go for it. I always would encourage that to players and stuff. But again, we'll see what happens with that. Still a little while away, but definitely something to kind of think about here too within the next season or two with his contract, like we talked about, being up for grabs. So we'll see what happens with that. But now our last game here too, the Blazers and the Lakers. Boy, really for the LA teams, it's been kind of a struggle for them lately.
It has, yeah.
You could say tough one there for the Lakers, no doubt. It was just a really tough matchup there for them. Just kind of started off slow right away. But eventually, though, they did pick it up, though, later on. But the Blazers, though, eventually they came out here as the winner. And Anthony Davis, good game for him, 28 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals. Terrific game by him. LeBron even getting a triple-double as well. Yeah. So that was really phenomenal for him. I think because people have been kind of getting on LeBron now for not being the player he once was before the season came to a halt because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But still, I think LeBron, though, being much more of a team player now, not just taking the ball himself at times, taking matters into his own hands. I think that's kind of been the key thing for the Lakers there at times. But I think now he's kind of starting to see, okay, he's 35. He's got a good young players around him, Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma, to kind of help him there, take the shrug off his shoulders there. And I think they'll definitely for the Lakers, tough loss there for them, but no doubt I think here in the game 2 coming up here, they definitely come out here with come out much more better, much more prepared right away. So I think for the Lakers right now at this point, tough first game for them, but no doubt I think game 2 they come out with much more hunger in them.
Definitely the matchup that the Lakers didn't want to see in the first round. Obviously, we know what Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are capable of. Really good guards for them, and that's kind of what the Lakers are lacking. Obviously, Avery Bradley was a great guard defender, and he's not here for personal reasons. Did not want to be at the bubble during this pandemic, which is totally understandable. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just they're definitely missing him either guarding CJ or Dame, and obviously KCP and Danny Green did not have good games at all. For the Lakers, just obviously those guys need to play better, and their game 2 is tonight. So, Lakers in a kind of a must-win situation. Danny Green scored 10 points. KCP only 1 point. So you got to hope that KCP obviously scores more points than that because they definitely need his scoring. We've seen what he's capable of too. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, definitely. I mean, we know that CJ and Dame are going to be those monsters and they're going to score a lot of points, but you got to contain them a little bit better. Obviously, Alex Caruso had a tough job in, trying to guard Dame, as we see a really deep 3 right there late in the fourth quarter, and he just it's you got to feel bad for him. You can't stop Dame when he's in that rhythm when he's shooting it from the logo. But game 2 interesting. It's gonna be an interesting game to see what happens. Definitely got to contain those guys though for the Trailblazers, but I definitely think it's going to be Lakers for Game 2.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for the Lakers right now, Damian Lillard, such a phenomenal player. Boy, like we talked about there too, that shot really just making it look so easy right there from almost half court. So I think for this series, no doubt, it's going to definitely be one that can go back and forth in a way. Of course, Charles Barkley said if the Blazers win Game 1, they would sweep the Lakers. So I think that's a bit of a stretch right there by Chuck, but I think though he definitely. But the Blazers, they could be onto something though. I think so. We'll see what goes on with that. And
he has some bold predictions.
Yeah, very bold predictions. But hey, sometimes you gotta say sometimes you just gotta say what you gotta say, and eventually, hey, you might be right, you might be wrong, which I think he is, but that's okay. No, but I think with the Lakers right now at this point, they have, they'll come out here with much more hunger, like I mentioned. Didn't lose Game 1 badly, again, only by 7 points. So, again, just a tough game for them for sure. Of course, the 3-point shooting there was very critical for them. Only 5 out of 32. Boy, you talk about getting a couple more shots there from the 3-point line. Win right there for sure, no doubt. I think for the Blazers too, getting 13 out of 34. Still, it's kind of low for them, but eventually it doesn't matter. What matters is you get the win. So I definitely think that's going to be the key thing for the Lakers is shooting the 3-ball much better. I think if the Lakers can shoot the 3-ball better, LeBron keeps on doing what he's doing. 80, same thing. Kyle Kuzma, all the other guys there too. I think no doubt that the Lakers can come out here with the win for sure in Game 2.
Yeah, if you're the Blazers, definitely have to have a little bit more points in the paint. Obviously, like you mentioned, did score 13 of 34 from the 3-point range. But yeah, the size for the Lakers is their best key. Obviously, they have a really big starting lineup for the most part, and AD and JaVale McGee down there, and even Dwight Howard too, coming off the bench, provide a lot of points in the paint. So you got to keep doing that for Game 2 and the future games down the line. But like you mentioned, KCP, Danny Green, got to score more threes. That's your guys' job. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they respond to their Game 1 performance. I saw a social media video of after practice. It was either today or yesterday. Danny Green and KCP both getting extra shots after practice. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to Game 2 tonight.
Absolutely. I think it's always, definitely we see guys putting in the more extra work there when they know that they had a tough first game. It shows you, too, how much that they really care about what's going to happen. Not saying, of course, if they didn't, they wouldn't care. But I definitely think it shows you, too, how much they really just want to forget about this performance, come out and shoot the ball so much better. And, boy, definitely I think for the Lakers, that's going to be a really key thing for them is can they come out and shoot the 3-ball better, like I mentioned. So I think for the Lakers, so that's going to be a really critical area for them. If they can come out, shoot the 3-ball better, excel where they excel that here in Game 1, no doubt they can come out with the victory here in Game 2. But, boy, when you look at Dame Lillard, I mean, even Carmelo Anthony, too, boy, who thought he would be back in the playoffs out there? It's kind of been a really tough couple of years for him, playing with the Thunder, but then goes to the Rockets. But eventually, with the Rockets, it just didn't work out for him. They didn't want to disrespect him by not having to play much. So it's just better for him to go off and sign with a team that was going to play. But nobody signed him, though. I mean, he got traded to the Bulls, finally. Like in 2014, that should have happened.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Garden Pax. Gosh. By the way, Bulls fired Jim Boylan. So happy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you've just been celebrating all week about that.
Yeah, I pretty much have. I mean, the Bulls are still going to suck, though, probably.
For a few years. You got to give them a few years.
Yeah, a few years. Okay, maybe
like 10 years. 10 years, is that okay? Or is that not enough?
I'm just kidding. Sometimes I don't know why I agreed to do this show with you. Anyway, but yeah.
15 years. We'll get 15, all right? I'm sure they'll be good in 15 years or more.
Yeah, hopefully 15 years. 15 at the minimum, max maybe 50. Yeah. If you're the Bulls, that's how it's going to be under Garden Pax. Oh yeah, this is rebuilding year. You say that every year, okay? Seriously. Oh. I'm over it though. I'm over it. Anyway, what were we talking about now?
I think we were going to talk about Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he got ejected, didn't he? For a dumb reason. Yeah, that was a really okay. Yeah, Kristaps Porzingis. Yeah, he got ejected, and it was a load of bull, I thought.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. So okay, I think Doncic and some and some other guys got into it from the Clippers, and eventually Porzingis kind of gets in there. He already had a tech anyway, so a second tech automatically leads to an ejection then. But I think for Porzingis, like I don't know what he said on the court. It's kind of funny now, because in sports now with no fans, you kind of hear what players are saying to each other. A lot of trash talk going on there, but of course with the virtual fans, makes it kind of now still like a real NBA game still with fans there. But Porzingis, though, he got ejected. And I did think it was a bit of overreaction by the refs, because all he did was kind of just go in there and kind of start talking. Yeah, there was a little shoving going on, which is okay. It's not too big of a deal. No punches were thrown. But I think that for him to get ejected, though, that was a bit of a stretch right there. And Twitter was really having a field day with it. LeBron, Dirk Nowitzki, even Patrick Mahomes was even chiming in on it too as well. When you see other athletes chiming in on it from different sports, it's getting pretty serious, you could say, or it's not really fair. But anyway, just not. I thought for the refs that was not right for them. But either way, maybe they heard something that he said that was not appropriate, and he had to go. But either way, I didn't like the call. I thought it was just not fair. But it is what it is at this point, and yeah, it's just I just did not like it at all. Like I said, just a load of bull. Yep. And it is what it is at this point. But he was back for game 2, came out there victorious. So it's over with now, but really just for the refs, not a good look for them.
No, and obviously, I think if, he wasn't ejected, I really do think the Mavericks would have won game 1.
Possibly, yeah.
But, yeah, it's going to be, obviously a lot of people, obviously high-level athletes as well, thought it was kind of a BS call, and I did as well. Obviously, it was Porzingis' first, NBA playoff debut, and he was playing actually really well, too, and then obviously got his second tech, which at that point, playoffs, it's the intensity, obviously, and I think you just got to let those guys kind of play it out. I mean, it wasn't really too much that happened. It's not like anybody really threw a punch or anything like that. So, I think it was, not the best call, obviously, by the officials. And they actually, Porzingis didn't even get charged for that technical, so it won't count. Obviously, like when Draymond Green, he usually gets like 15 or more, techs a season. He gets suspended. That's obviously what happened back when the Cavs won the NBA championship, when Draymond Green missed out on one of the games because he had too many techs. So obviously it's good for Porzingis, but he's not really that type of player where he's going to get a lot of technical fouls anyway. But obviously the officials, they made a mistake. Wasn't worth the tech, but yeah, the Mavericks responded really well in game 2, won, and Clippers did have a little bit of an off game like we mentioned, but I think Porzingis and Doncic really had a good game, and their chemistry is great in the playoffs, and I'm excited for game 3 for them. It
definitely is exciting for these players for sure, especially with Porzingis and Doncic. I think with Porzingis now being in the playoffs for a guy who's really, we saw with the Knicks there too, he was going to be the future of the team, but eventually that did not be the case, and then they kind of set their hopes on getting Zion, Kyrie, and KD, but that all fell apart very quickly at the draft lottery, which is actually going on right now. We'll definitely get to that here once the first picked by the team, who will be picking in the first with that first overall pick. But I think definitely though for the Mavericks, boy, having these two young guys, Doncic and Porzingis, boy, what better duel can you think of right there? These two young men. I definitely would be excited to be a Mavs fan for sure, and it definitely is exciting. Definitely time to be a Mavs fan, and like you talked about there too, with him getting kicked out of the first game, who knows what could have happened had he not been ejected. But either way, like I said, it is what it is. But he came back from game 2, played a great game with the Mavs, and same with Doncic too. Those two guys tearing it up, and boy, they could be definitely one of the best duels for years to come, I would say, and that's gonna be very impressive. For sure, but definitely exciting for sure to see how they're all going to play as this series does tend to carry on. Now, going back to the Celtics here too with Gordon Hayward, of course, we know for the Celtics, a pretty good blow for them. You could say with him now being out for 4 weeks due to an right ankle sprain. Good thing is it was not the ankle that he fractured in his first game with the Celtics there too, about 5 minutes into his debut with them. That was pretty terrible to see right there. Just such a good young player, and then signs with a new team. And eventually, first couple minutes into his season debut, he gets hurt. They're out for the season. Last year, still kind of recovering from that. We saw him play, coming off the bench though, mostly struggling at times. But this year, though, he really started to come back into his old form, like he was there with the Jazz. And now with him being out for 4 weeks, and now with the Celtics still playing very good basketball. what could the future hold for Gordon Hayward now at this point? Because he has a player option next season. Good chance he does opt out and test the market here once again. May not get a good deal like he did there with the Celtics, like he did the first time, because with the Utah Jazz, he was just so phenomenal right there for them. But now I would say, though, with the Celtics, though, this year, though, he's able to really show what he can do now, once again, when he's fully healthy. So that could definitely play a good role into him securing a good contract for whatever team he decides to go to if he does opt out. But right now, though, I think with him not playing, though, right now, this is definitely not, of course, for the Celtics, they're playing great still. Tatum's doing great. Brown's been playing good. Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, they got their good guys right there still. So I think for Hayward, though, if he does tend to leave Boston, is it going to affect him? Maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot of stuff. Sure, maybe not having his presence there is going to be different for sure. But I think if he does go off somewhere else, though, the Celtics they'll still be a fine team, no doubt.
Yeah, I definitely think it's definitely kind of a weird situation too, because I think the Celtics would still be very good, like you mentioned too, without Gordon Hayward. But what he brings at the same time. Obviously, good for Gordon that it's not an injury that's like way too serious. Obviously, he's going to miss a few weeks, like we mentioned, but I think he's going to be okay. I think the Celtics are going to make a pretty deep playoff run, so I definitely see him coming back either for late second round or the third round of the playoffs if they do make it that far. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with that injury. But I think the Celtics, obviously, I think they're still going to win against the 76ers. They still have a really deep kind of bench, and obviously Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, and Jason Tatum, all incredibly good players, and they've been playing really well as too. But yeah, definitely a blow for the Celtics that they're not going to have him for a few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully if the Celtics do make a deep playoff run, which would not be shocking if they do, Hayward does come back for sure. But I think definitely right now at this point, though, just have to rest him, see what happens from here. But I'm definitely really curious about that player option, though. Does he opt out? Does he opt back in? We'll have to wait and see how that's all going to play out. But really going to be curious to see how that's all going to play out there once that time does come around here in the fall time when NBA free agency is tended to get started back up. But yeah, definitely been a tough blow or a tough break there for Gordon Hayward over the past couple of years, being injured, having to kind of come back, trying to prove himself that he's capable of being the player he once was, because it wasn't just a fractured tibia. It was like also dislocated ankle, gruesome injury like we talked about there too. So a really tough one to come back. But he was playing good up until the injury. Hopefully, if he does come back here in the playoffs, he does tend to show what he can do still before he got hurt. But we'll have to wait and see how that's all going to play out. Now, with the Philadelphia 76ers there, like we talked about with Ben Simmons, boy, did they make it out of the first round because he's not going to be playing? Probably not, because you look at the Celtics right now, they're just riding high. And Jason Tatum, phenomenal performances by him. Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, like we talked about there too already when talking about Gordon Hayward. So with Ben Simmons being hurt for the Sixers, we'll wait and see how that's all going to play out for them. I think they could get a win possibly in this series if they do. But boy, for the Celtics to go 4-0, it would not surprise me at all one bit.
Yeah, I definitely think it's. We talked about it a little bit, but I definitely think the loss of Ben Simmons, their best passer, he's just best transition player too. Gets those points as well as those assists in transition. They're definitely going to miss that. Joel Embiid, obviously he's really good, but he's definitely not the guy that can just carry a team like a LeBron can, for example. So, and I think the Celtics are just they just have a lot better players as well too than the 76ers at this point. So, I definitely don't see them making it out of the first round. Would I be surprised if the 76ers won a game? No, I wouldn't be. I think they can at least win one game, but I definitely think it's going to be all Celtics.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's going to be probably how it's going to be. Like I talked about there too with the Sixers, would not be surprised if they do get a victory here. It wouldn't shock me, but it also wouldn't shock me too if the Celtics go 4-0. I think that's just how it's kind of been for them here in this playoff series. Been just playing really good basketball. All starters playing very well. Even Enes Kanter coming off the bench there too was doing really good. So I definitely would not be shocked if the Celtics do go 4-0 here in this series. All right, so a couple games here we have going on. Obviously, it's like we talked about, it's been a really fun playoff series so far between a lot of good teams there too. Our first game that we have here, who you got? The Blazers or the Lakers. I think right now who we're going to go with, the Lakers. At least that's my pick.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers definitely, a tough first game, like I mentioned there for them. LeBron getting a triple-double there. Unfortunately, though, did not get the win. But I think, though, boy, they keep on performing at a high level. Again, get that three-point ball shooting going. That's going to be a really big key factor for them. If they get the win, I think the Lakers tie the series up and take game 2.
Yeah, I agree. Lakers, I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win actually by 12 points. Excuse me. Just getting a little emotional thinking about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry about Jared Dudley. Sorry about Jared Dudley. Doesn't play a whole lot. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's a sore subject. We'll talk. We'll talk about that later. But I definitely think Danny Green and KCP. I think they're going to play a lot better. Obviously, we know what LeBron and AD are going to do. They're going to play really well. I think Damian and CJ and Anthony. I think they're all going to make it really hard for the Lakers. But I see them, the Lakers, I should say, pulling out in the fourth quarter. I think they're going to make it a pretty big lead, and the Trailblazers aren't going to have enough. But yeah, I think I'm going to give it to the Lakers by 12 points.
Yeah, I don't see Jared Dudley on the topics sheet, so I don't think we'll be talking about him tonight. But we'll see. Maybe he'll do something.
Maybe he'll get in a fight, and we'll have to talk about it.
Starting a fight like he always does. Yeah, that's really what you want to be known for, starting a fight for no reason.
Hey, he's helping out his team. Okay, he's a team player.
Maybe he should unblock me on Twitter. That'd be nice.
Right. He has his reasons.
I didn't even say anything mean to him. All I said was he was overrated. If he blocked me, I'm still a little salty about that, actually.
Oh God.
We should pull that up actually sometime. I wish we could.
Yeah,
we should. It'd be pretty funny. Okay, actually now our second game we have here, the Nuggets and Jazz. This is gonna be game 3. Jazz, big win there for them. For the Nuggets, a tough loss for them. I'll take the Jazz here in this game for them. I think Donovan Mitchell, boy, like I talked about there too, phenomenal game there as well. 30 points there in game 2. I think he still comes out there playing great basketball. Same with Rudy Gobert. Good game by him as well. And for the Utah Jazz, really good performances by them. And for the Nuggets, though, too, I think this would be a close game for sure, but I think the Jazz will come out here as the winner here in this game. Again, Donovan Mitchell really just playing great basketball here so far, and would not be shocked if they get the win here in game 3.
Yeah, I'm also going to give this one to the Jazz. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to score over 40 points in Game 3. I also think Jordan Clarkson is going to score over 30 points coming off the bench. I know kind of some bold predictions, but I definitely see Jordan Clarkson having a really, really good game. Coming off the bench, he's just been improving every game that I've kind of been watching the Utah Jazz. So it's good to see for him, and definitely the Jazz need him, need a scoring coming off the bench when some of those key scorers are on the bench taking a rest. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Jazz in Game 3, but I definitely think it's gonna be a close game. But yeah, I got Jazz winning.
All right, and for our last game, and who you got? We got the Bucks and Magic here, and this will be the third game of their series. With the Bucks, a huge win for them here in Game 2, like we just talked about. That game just concluded probably about 15 minutes ago. So I think for the Bucks here, like talk about there too. I know actually I already told you you're taking the Magic here, but I'm taking the Bucks here in this game. I think with Milwaukee having such a good Game 2 here, coming back to tie the series up, I think they'll take the series lead here in Game 3. I think Giannis will score 37 points. I'll give my bold prediction right there. Brook Lopez scoring 21 points there as well. I'll give those predictions right there too. With the Magic, I think they'll still compete with the Bucks for sure. Put up a good fight there for them, but I will take the Bucks here in Game 3.
I got the Magic winning. I think they're going to have a similar game to Game 1. I think it's going to be definitely a close game. I definitely think the Bucks are going to make it tight. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks won, but I definitely think the Magic have what it takes to lead 2-1 in the series. I think Vucevic is going to have a good game, as well as Markelle Fultz. So if those guys get it going, I definitely think the Magic can win and go up 2-1.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely going to be a fun game right there. I think in Game 3 between these two teams. A lot of good games happening here that will be coming up here very shortly, too. Of course, we know with the Blazers and the Lakers here, Game 2 just getting ready to start back up. So definitely going to be exciting. Going to be a really exciting time to see what teams are going to prevail, come out here with the win. But definitely going to be really fun to watch. I definitely got to keep my eyes on this. Been a really fun time to be a sports fan here once again. And, boy, definitely just glad that sports are back for the time being. I know it's been kind of a rough stretch of the league. Obviously, things could still change depending on what happens with the coronavirus pandemic. But right now, though, it's just good to see sports back for the time being, and who knows what's going to happen. Be kind of weird watching the NBA finals in late September, early October, but I think at this point, though, we'll take what we can. And kind of we'll get on to some somewhat breaking news right here. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is saying, as of right now, the NBA 2020 and 21 season would start possibly on December 1st. I think that's kind of what they already put it there on their tentative timeline. Once, of course, they were trying to come back here. I'll tell you what, with Adam Silver, for a guy who's been one of the best active commissioners right now, you can say, not, of course, in the NBA, but really making Roger Goodell, Rob Manfred not looking so good. Yeah. Adam Silver, he's done such a great job since he took over for the late David Stern, and I definitely would trust Adam Silver to do the right thing to make sure next season gets back going in such a timely manner.
Yeah, I definitely think Adam Silver is the best commissioner in pro sports altogether. Obviously, what he's done with the bubble is just excellent, and definitely was expecting a early December start, kind of get everything back in order. But yeah, I mean, it's not really surprising, but definitely the right move, and give those guys a few months off to kind of recover, get ready to go. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see.
It's definitely been a tough time for the players, of course, being down there in Orlando, being away from their families and their friends. Of course, at this time, they'd be prepared in their last couple of weeks of the off season with a vacation or so. Probably did not expect to be playing playoff basketball here at this time of the year, but at this point now, hey, you just got to take what you can. I definitely think, though, with Adam Silver, he will do the right thing. And December 1st, that's not a set date, but that's just what they're targeting for right now. But if they got to push it back a little bit, I would totally get that. You want to give these guys a bit, time off there too. Obviously, with Anthony Davis becoming a free agent, you want to give him time to make a decision to see if he'll re-sign with the Lakers, which I think he will. We'll see. Like I said, I've been wrong on that before. But I think with the Lakers, though, he's really comfortable with them. But I think Adam Silver, though, he will do the right thing to get fans back into the arenas safely. That's what he wants to do for sure. But at this point right now, I think you just got to be patient to see what's going to happen. But definitely happy to see they're trying to make some progress here. I think that's going to be the key thing right there for them. So it's going to be exciting for that. I think right now at this point, we'll take our first break here. When we come back, we got some football news to talk about. We got the college football, the Big Ten trying to get back underway with Ohio State Buckeyes quarterback Justin Fields starting a petition, but the Big Ten said, nope, we're sticking with our decision, which I think is right. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. And Des Bryant, will he be back on the field with the new team? All that coming up here next with Timeout with the guys. And welcome back into Timeout with the guys. I'm Brad Bird. Alongside with me here is Carter Foley. So actually, I want to start with some breaking news here. Once again, of course, with the NBA draft lottery happening here this evening. Now the picks have finally been which team where they will be picking has now been finished, and the T-Wolves, the Minnesota Timberwolves, picking at number 1. I'll tell you what, that's kind of shocking right there. I did not expect that, but I think for the Timberwolves, what they've been through the past couple seasons, they're kind of trying to find a way to stay competitive and trading away Andrew Wiggins in the offseason, before the COVID-19 pandemic shut down the NBA for some time, but then getting Jimmy Butler there for a season, then he gets traded to the Sixers. Now for the Timberwolves, they get that first overall pick, and boy, this is going to be huge for them if they can take advantage of that and go all the way. Because right now you have Karl Anthony Towns; he is such a phenomenal player for the T-Wolves. But boy, like I talked about there, if they can take advantage of this first overall pick, this is going to be huge for them going down in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens with that. Obviously, Minnesota, kind of like you mentioned, struggling the last few years. I think, who are they going to go for? It's going to be kind of hard to tell. I think they probably would go for Anthony Edwards out of Georgia. Interesting to see kind of what happens. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people expected Minnesota to get the number 1 pick, but they definitely sure are happy that they have it. And Golden State, too, number 2. Obviously, they had a really rocky season as well. But, I mean, that's going to be good for Golden State because, you get Curry, you get Thompson back, you get Draymond Green, and you get a really high draft pick. I mean, then all of a sudden you're kind of forming a good team once again. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens in Chicago, number 4 for you. So, yeah, hopefully something good happens out of that. Unfortunately for New York, number 8. So that's going to be a tough situation. Obviously, a lot of people were expecting them to be 3 or 4, and they're going all the way back to 8. So, LaMelo Ball, will he still be available that high? I'm not sure. Obviously, a lot of people thought maybe he would go to New York, but at this rate, I don't know. Maybe somebody would try to grab him before that.
Yeah, definitely going to be curious to see how that's all going to work out. I think for LaMelo Ball, definitely where is he going to end up at is going to be the big question, because we talked about there too with the T-Wolves. They got a point guard right there, and also in D'Angelo Russell. So I think for the Timberwolves, that would not be the way to go. But maybe for the Warriors, of course, they got Steph Curry there too at point guard. So maybe, maybe for the Charlotte Hornets, who knows what's going to happen right there. Of course, we know that Michael Jordan, he is a minority owner there with the Charlotte Hornets, and him and LeVar Ball were really going there. LeVar Ball saying he could beat him one-on-one.
Oh, jeez.
But now, with possibly maybe LaMelo Ball could be playing with the Hornets. We'll see what happens with that. With Chicago, who knows what's going to happen at this point. They may just want to do some restarting here. We'll see what happens with that. They got a new front office. They will get a new head coach here soon. Hopefully it will not be anyone in the name of Fred Hoiberg. That would really be a bad deal. But no, I think for LaMelo Ball, the best case scenario for him, I'm sure he'll definitely go to a team that definitely needs a point guard that can start away quickly, and I think he can do that. He's played some pro basketball, as we know, overseas before. Did okay, didn't do bad, but I think definitely at this point now he's ready to take his game to the NBA, and definitely be excited to see how he's going to do. Obviously with Lonzo Ball, did much better this year with the Pelicans than he did his first 2 years with the Lakers. So we'll see if the Ball guys are they for real is the question, because we know that LeVar likes to hype these guys up a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But so far though, just has not been there for them. But I think for LaMelo, he definitely is going to be one of the he could be the best out of these out of the Ball brothers. Of course, with LiAngelo, and of course we all kind of knew he was not NBA material.
Yeah.
Maybe will never be possibly. But I definitely think though for LaMelo, he definitely is going to be something to watch out for someday. But again, we'll see what happens with that. But of course, with the NBA draft lottery, with my Bulls getting the 4th overall pick, I'm glad it's not number 7 this time. I was getting a little tired of that over the past 3 years or such. But I'm glad we're able to now finally get number 4 now, which is nice. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm excited. But, it's going to be still a bit of a retooling year for the Bulls whenever they get the season or their next season back up and going. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm definitely excited for those Ball matchups, on TV. It's going to be interesting to see. But, yeah, I think LaMelo definitely could be a little bit better than Lonzo. I think he's a better shooter. They have a very similar play style, but I definitely think LaMelo can shoot the ball a little bit better, which I think ultimately is going to make him the better player. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm happy for you, obviously. Bulls getting the 4th pick. Can't complain about that. You just got to make something good out of it.
Absolutely, I think it's going to be be a big thing for them too. I'm excited for the new front office to see how they're going to utilize that pick as well. For the Bulls right now at this point, they got some good young players there too. Zach LaVine, Larry Marketing. I think Kobe White's going to be a good player going down the road too. So I will give the previous front office some credit for that, but I don't want to start giving them full credit because they really ticked me off a lot of the time as well. But that's in the past now. It's time to move on. I'm excited, but we'll have to wait and see how this is all going to play out because we're still definitely in uncertain times. But once we get over this completely, definitely gonna be exciting to see how this is all going to work out. Now, moving on to football talk. This is going to be good. So last week, Buckeyes QB Justin Fields, who plays for Ohio State, started a petition to relaunch the 2020 season for the Big Ten. That was originally postponed because of the coronavirus pandemic going on. They decided to postpone all fall activities until the spring possibly. But Justin Fields, he started a petition because players want to play. We get that. But I think at this point right now, with these players still being college students, we have to understand that, sure, the players will get tested daily. They'll be healthy most of the time. Maybe it depends on what they do in their free time. But the Big Ten knows saying we're not going to do that. We're just going to stick to our decision that we made previously. And I get it. There's been players upset, parents of players, and the fans, of course, are disappointed. Well, look, I'm disappointed too. I love college football. I really do. I was excited for the Iowa Hawkeyes this year. But is it frustrating? Absolutely. Is it the right call, though? Absolutely. Again, I know it sucks for a lot of people. I get that. But at this point right now, we're just in uncertain times. You don't want to put anybody at risk right now with this whole virus. Look, I get it. People are ticked off. They're upset. They're angry. But at this point, though, right now, we just have to be patient still. Look, this is not going to be, hopefully, a problem that's going to keep carry on for such a long time. But I think at this point right now, though, is it the right call by the Big Ten? I think it is because you look at some other conferences as well, like the SEC. They're trying to get back up and going here, but that could come back to bite them. We'll see what happens with that. But I think right now at this point, though, for the 2020 fall season to be postponed, I definitely think that was the right call there by the Big Ten presidents, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the right decision. Definitely don't want to jump into anything. Don't want to give in to the pressure of those student athletes to because they're not scientists. They're they just want to go out there and play football, and you can't really blame them at the same time. But it's just not wise, especially putting, even if there was no fans. I mean, it wouldn't really make a difference because those guys are still going to class. They're still sitting next to the other students, and you don't know where those other students have been. So it's just it's a mess that you can't really control. And yeah, I mean, would those guys probably be fine? Probably, yeah, if they got it. But, you don't want to take the risk of, getting professors sick. Obviously a lot of professors are older, as well as coaches too, could even get it and maybe get sick. So there's just a lot of unknown certainties with the virus that a lot of people just still don't kind of understand completely. But yeah, to postpone the season, to move it to the spring, or even just play next season, do I think it's a big deal? Not really. I mean, yeah, of course it sucks, but it is what it is. This year has been terrible. Everyone will admit it. From Kobe passing away to the coronavirus to just everything else. Obviously, we didn't get to finish the last few months of school. We didn't get to graduate. So it's just it's just been an awful year. But it's just you have to give and take, and it's unfortunate, but I definitely think this is the right decision by the Big Ten, and I'm glad they're sticking with it.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And to say it's definitely been it's been a tough year for sure. I would lie if I didn't say that. I definitely don't want to look at this year as 2020 was such an awful year. I want to look at it more as it was challenging for sure, but it taught me a whole lot. Don't take all these small things for granted, like you talked about there too, with the tragedy of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna and the others, in that terrible tragedy with the helicopter accident. That was just a terrible way to start off the year, pretty much, because I was still in January, and then just about probably a month and a half later, the coronavirus pandemic started to shut down the whole country. Really, and that was just not what we all needed. But right now, though, I think we're at a point where it's just we have to just take it one day at a time. Things are going to be different for a little bit, and by a little bit, I don't mean like a week or so. It's going to probably be for the rest of the year, maybe in even 2021. Even who knows? I mean, this whole virus definitely contains a lot of unknown factors. I would say, not trying to stir up any controversy or anything, but I think that's just how it is right now. Look, I get it. We all want to get back to what we want to do. I totally get that. We all want to do what we want to do. It's definitely been tough for sure. So many people are not working and stuff. So I definitely think at this point right now for the Big Ten to just say this fall we can't do it because with the second wave, of course, we're still in the first wave technically, but cases because flu season, that's when it starts to come into play as well, and now you have a pandemic still you're having to deal with as well. So no doubt cases will be definitely, I think, on the rise possibly. Again, we'll see what happens with that, but I definitely think it was the right call for the Big Ten to postpone the season. I get it. I love college football. I prefer it more than the pros, honestly, but to have it be postponed, I definitely think that was the right call by the Big Ten commission for sure. Look, it's definitely been tough for sure. We all want to watch football on Saturdays and Sundays. Of course, right now with the NFL still scheduled to go on with their season, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But I think right now, at this point right now, it's just best to kind of halt fall sports for the time being, just see what's going to happen come springtime.
Yeah, definitely not worth the risk of, like I mentioned, getting people sick and just having a lot of unknown factors. I think that's the biggest part about it, and I don't blame them. They don't want to take any risk, and I think that's the right decision. And to hold it off for until the springtime or even until 2021, I think it's a big deal. Not really, and I think people are going to get over it. I just it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
No, you're absolutely right, and people get over it. Maybe. I mean, I'm just kind of accepting how it's going to be right now at this point with what this year has been. So you just can't take anything for granted right now at this point. But we'll see what happens with that. Now moving on to some pro football news here. Dez Bryant getting a tryout with the Baltimore Ravens. Dez Bryant, of course, as we all know, has not played since the end of the 2017 NFL season. However, he did sign with the New Orleans Saints back in mid-2018 season. But tough scene for him. 2 days later, he tore his Achilles.
Wow, that's bad timing.
That was very bad timing. Especially, I think they either brought in Brandon Marshall afterwards then too, but then he eventually got cut or whatever. Yep. Either way for the Saints, it didn't really affect them because they still had a great season. Of course, they got screwed over by the pass interference call there, so it didn't really matter to them. I think they just want to get Dez a shot to go to the playoffs for actually a deep run this time. Not like with the Cowboys where they make it and then boom, they get kicked out right away at least. So for Dez Bryant, still being 31 years old, he'll be 32 in November. Does he still have what it takes to play in the league? I think so. Is he the player he once was, like with the Cowboys back in the early 2010s? Probably not, especially for a guy who suffered the injury at 30 years old. Definitely not the injury you want to have at that type of age, because the older you are, the longer the recovery could be. You may not be able to recover as quickly as a young player would. But I think for Dez Bryant, though, to go to a team like the Baltimore Ravens, if they were to come up with a contract agreement, you're playing with the MVP in Lamar Jackson, going to a team that went 14-2 last year, a team that was almost bound for the Super Bowl, but eventually I think it was the Titans, though, who said, no, we got other things we want to do. Yeah. So I think definitely it was for Dez Bryant to get a tryout. Definitely shows that he still wants to play here in the league. And for a guy that had to deal with some bit of controversy at first, he's had his moments for sure where on the field he's gotten a little crazy at times. I remember a game against the Green Bay Packers. The Cowboys were up, I think, 28-3 at one point, but the Packers came back to win like 34-31. He walked off the field with about 2 minutes left to go. So it really kind of shows you the emotions that he has. But over the years, though, he's matured a lot, became a much better leader. You could say a much better role model. I remember when Dak and Zeke came into the league with the Cowboys in their first year back in 2016. The Cowboys they had a really good team that year, obviously with Tony Romo being hurt, not missing the entire season, but not playing almost the entire season because Dak was doing so good. Dez Bryant or Zeke and Dak talked about how Dez was being such a good big brother role to him in a way. So I thought that was really cool to hear those guys talking about that. So I think for Dez Bryant to see a guy like him mature so much over the past couple seasons since then, the incident that he had against the Packers walking off the field, really just becoming a much more consistent player, but also a better person as well.
Yeah, I definitely think signing Des Bryant wouldn't be a bad thing for the Ravens. I think he has some veteran leadership, and obviously Marquise Brown is a really promising wide receiver. He played really good last year for the Ravens, and like you mentioned too, Lamar Jackson, MVP for the Ravens, and he's only going to get better and better. Yeah, I definitely think they could, find a role for him, catching some footballs. Obviously, hasn't played in a few years, but that could actually be a good thing too. His body has been rested, and maybe he can, even if he doesn't play all the snaps, he can still get out there and kind of be that target for Lamar here and there. So I definitely think it's going to be, interesting to see if he does, get to work or tries out and gets the job with the Ravens. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be kind of interesting to see, and I would like to see it. I think it would be honestly really cool. And obviously, like you mentioned with the Achilles with the Saints, that's really unfortunate. So it would be awesome for him to just get back out there and play a few more games. Obviously, you don't know how many more years of football he has left in him, even if he does get signed by the Ravens. But I definitely think it would be good for him.
Absolutely. Of course, I think we all know he wouldn't play the role with the Ravens like he did with the Cowboys back then, but definitely could still just be a guy like, if I can go out there in like that third or fourth role, just kind of be that target out there for Lamar Jackson when he needs him to. We know with Marquise Brown, such a boy for a rookie last year to play like that, like he's been in the league for already maybe 4 or 5 years. That was very phenomenal by him. But I think Des Bryant though could definitely give the Ravens that secondary target maybe that they possibly could use that can help them get get into the playoffs at a much deeper, higher level there, rather than just getting in and then almost getting knocked out right away when you had such a phenomenal season. But I think for Des Bryant, that'd definitely be a great opportunity for him to play there in Baltimore. We know Baltimore, John Harbaugh, such a good coach there. He's been with them since 2008. Of course, people were calling for his job after the Ravens were kind of struggling at times before Lamar came in. But boy, now that they got a good young team now there with them, and they're definitely on track to have some really good dominant seasons if they can stay healthy. So really excited to see how the Ravens are going to do. Definitely been a fun team to watch. Obviously, Ray Lewis was always a fun player to watch there. Joe Flacco was fun to watch too. So it's good to see these good young players now with the Ravens here today step up and do a really good job. So like with the Big Ten, like we talked about there too, with the Big Ten, college football postponing their fall season until the spring of 2021 possibly. Some pro teams like the Chicago Bears, Atlanta Falcons, and now the Seattle Seahawks have announced that fans will not be in attendance to begin the season. Although I think now the Bears announced today that no fans will be allowed at all this season, which I think is definitely, again, possibly the right call for him. Obviously, with the city of Chicago being in the state of Illinois, of course, with the cases there in Illinois going up at a pretty good rate there. But as right now, though, teams and cities will monitor to see when fans can come back safely. I think that's a good protocol right there. Just kind of play it out, see how it's going to be. Wouldn't that be a shock though to see no fans at all there in stadiums for football? But to see no fans in football, it'd be really interesting to see how that's all going to work out there too as well. Because with the NBA, they had the virtual fans. With baseball, they do some virtual fans. I know for Fox, which is not bad. But if I'm watching like a baseball game like the Cubs or White Sox, seeing no fans, definitely is a little strange for sure. But they do a good job though, like with the sound noises and stuff. I think that's pretty cool for sure. But I think with football though, definitely be curious to see how that's all going to work out too as well, because we know players kind of feed off the energy of the fans. Of course, we know that they do in the NBA, baseball too. Even I think in all sports, you could say that they feed off the fans on how a team is going to be playing. But for football, I'm definitely curious to see how this is all going to work out, because I know a lot of fans want to get back into stadiums to watch their favorite teams play. But for right now, though, I think again this is the right call for teams to just kind of hold off, wait and see what's going to happen, because we know with football, it's been pretty questionable how they've handled this whole thing and stuff, because we know what happened back in the spring. Maybe they waited out too long, and so they thought, come around training camp, if things will be okay, we can get back to where we once were. But we're still where we once were, unfortunately. And I think right now at this point, with no fans, it is the right call. It's going to be weird, but I think at this point, though, if we want football, this is how it's going to be for 2020.
Yeah, and I definitely think, it's a tough situation too, because obviously you want to have fans there, but at the same time you're trying to risk the spread of coronavirus. And obviously these teams have mentioned, obviously like the Bears, like you mentioned, have no fans at all for their home games. But if the Bears are playing an opponent where they are allowing fans, it doesn't really make sense at that point, because the spread is still happening at another arena. So I think the NFL needs to come out, and they need to, I think they just need to ban all the fans this season altogether, because if you have some teams doing it and some teams not doing it, that's not really going to be effective in the long term, and you're not going to be able to prevent anything at that point. So it's going to be interesting to see. I give these teams props for obviously not having fans at least until September. Obviously, like I mentioned, Chicago, they're going to do it without fans for the whole season. But for these teams, at least until September, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I definitely think the NFL, Roger Goodell, just needs to come out and say no fans at all this season. Obviously, unless things were to get miraculously better, then he could change it at that point. But I just think it's really unrealistic, and it needs to be all or none, because at this point, if you have some doing it and some don't, it's not going to be effective at all in the long run.
Well, even if you have some fans come back, you got to think, though, that they're not going to allow 100% capacity. It's going to either be maybe like 25%, maybe 50 at the most, which could still be very high at that point. So I definitely think for the, like you said, for Roger Goodell, either he has to come out and say no fans at all for the time being, maybe for the first 8 weeks or so. After that, we'll see we'll see where we're at. But I think right now, at this point, though, teams shouldn't have to be able to make the decision themselves. Now, maybe, again, that's just my opinion. But I think for Roger Goodell, he needs to kind of step up his game a bit more right here, rather than just, look, I get it. People are not going to agree with him 100%. I get that. But at the same time, right now, though, I think for fans to go back into the stadiums, especially in cities where cases are still going up at a steady rate, I think that definitely be a wrong call. But again, that's just my opinion. Of course, I'm not the commissioner. I know you're not either. But I think right now, at this point, Roger Goodell needs to kind of have a more active voice in this, trying to figure something out, because we know football is not – you cannot social distance in football, really. You're tackling guys. You're getting sweaty. It's dripping off your body. So I think at this point right now, we just have to wait and see what's going to happen. We know some players have voiced their concerns. I know Russell Wilson voiced his concern. J.J. Watt did. So I think for players like those that are high-profile players to be expressing their concerns, they got to listen to those guys. So I definitely think for Roger Goodell, that would be the right thing to do. But we'll see what happens with that. As right now, though, the season is still scheduled to get underway. I know with Kansas City opening off the season there, the defending Super Bowl champions. But at this point right now, though, it's just, man, I'd be so excited for football right now at this point of the year. It's August 20th. Yeah. Season starts here in just a few weeks. You'd be so excited, but I'm just not feeling it right now at this point. I'm just not feeling it, and it's just not there. The hype isn't there. Of course, last year I was so excited, but comes mid-season, the hype was pretty much over with because I'm a Bears fan.
Hey, so it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, but no, but I still be excited though, because hey, I like watching football on Sundays, even on Saturdays too with college, but. At this point right now, it's just not there. Maybe come a week before the season gets started, I'll be excited. But reality is, though, it's just not there right now, and probably won't be there. Maybe not even all season too. Who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get excited for a season that you don't know if it's actually going to finish or not. I still think at this point, obviously we talked about it 2 weeks ago. I think it's unlikely that. The season's gonna finish. I think they're gonna have to pause it and start it again with a different format, or figure out a situation to keep everybody safe. It's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. Still haven't really heard a lot from the NFL, so it's gonna be interesting to see. But definitely, I would be exactly the same. Very happy, excited for the season to get started. But yeah, it's just kind of hard to get into it at this point.
Yeah, certainly, especially with baseball getting started up just a few weeks ago, probably almost a month now since then. But yeah, it's just been a time right now where preseason would be going on. We probably would be talking about some games there too by player performances. Of course, we know with the Bears QB battle with Foles and Trubisky, that'd definitely be a topic going around the league for sure. Of course, some rookies like Joey Burrow now with the Bengals, and So many other good dominant rookies too. Of course, Tua with the Dolphins. Of course, he won't probably play much this year because he'll basically be taking a red shirt for Miami, while Fitzpatrick tends to get the starting nod there. But I think right now at this point, though, we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. But yeah, the hype though, the excitement, it's just not there right now at this point. But we'll see what's going to happen. I know you talked about a couple weeks ago. You're saying come possibly weeks 3 or 4, maybe 5, season gets postponed indefinitely, or something's going to happen, which I would not be surprised either. For me, it's just a day-by-day process. That's just how it's always been through this whole ordeal. So, again, have to wait and see what's going to happen. But right now at this point, yeah, it's just not there. But anyway, though, to try and get me hyped up finally, we got some predictions here to give you. So last week we would have done the AFC and we would have done the AFC and the NFC South, which we will still do here. So let's get into the predictions right now with my NFC South predictions. I got the Saints going 12-4. I think with Drew Brees and the Saints still coming back this year, if they can get through the entire season, they go 12-4. I think now with Tom Brady now being with the Buccaneers, having a good solid team there, Gronk coming out of retirement, I think the Bucks go 11-5. Falcons 8-8. Panthers 6-10. I know this kind of sounds a little ridiculous right there, but I think with the Panthers though this year, got a new head coach, Teddy Bridgewater being there, but still kind of a little question marks raising over the Panthers right now. But I think though 6-10 will be the record. Again, we'll wait and see how this is all going to play out for the Falcons though. Signing Todd Gurley over, we'll see how that's all going to work out. He's still dealing with the knee arthritis there in his knee. He suffered there with the Rams. But boy, that NFC South though is going to be a really fun division to watch. You have two quarterbacks over 40 years old, and Brees and Brady now. I tell you what, this is going to be those will be fun games to watch for sure. The Saints and the Buccaneers, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited for those matchups too as well. Obviously, I got the Saints going 13-3. I think they're going to have a really good season for the most part. I also have the Buccaneers going 11-5. I think they're definitely going to make an improvement with Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Obviously, we know that the Buccaneers have had a really good defense, and now they're kind of getting some good offensive weapons too. Getting some good leadership in Tom Brady. I definitely think they're going to be a better team. I still think they're going to be a little bit behind the Saints. I really just think that the Saints are the dominant dogs of that division. I also got Carolina going 9-7. I think Teddy Bridgewater is definitely going to make an impact for Carolina. They got Christian McCaffrey. He's a stud. I mean, we know what he's capable of as well.
Great player.
I definitely think they're going to be better than last year. And then the Atlanta Falcons, I just haven't seen a lot of improvement with them. Obviously, like you mentioned, Todd Gurley, I just don't think he is what he once was. So that's why I give him 7-9. Definitely an improvement from last year. And, if the Atlanta Falcons go 8-8 or 9-7, would I be surprised? No. I'm just kind of thinking I haven't really seen a lot what they've done in the offseason. So that's ultimately why I gave them that.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, still have bad memories of him at Stanford when he tore up the Iowa Hawkeyes in the 2015 Rose Bowl game. That was pretty bad. No, he's such a phenomenal player. I love Christian McCaffrey. He's a really fun player to watch. But now going on to the AFC South now. Again, this is a division here too. That's going to be really, I think, fun to watch as well. The Colts, of course, signed Phil Rivers to a 1-year, $25 million deal there. That's a lot of money for 1 year, of course. Wish I can have that. I think the Colts this year will go 11-5. I think this definitely could be an improvement season for them. For the Titans, though, what a great season that they had last year, upsetting the Patriots in the playoffs. Really just having overall just a really decent season. Ryan Tannehill really kind of showing out what he was capable of doing. It took him a little while to finally show what he was capable of doing, but with the Titans, though, such a much better team there. Obviously, Derrick Henry leading the league in rushing last season as well. With the Texans, oh boy, the offseason for him, just a really bad offseason for him. They traded away their best, probably the best wide receiver in all of football right now. I mean, obviously, Michael Thomas is up there with the Saints, but DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, Arizona, that is awesome. Good for you. But I think for the Texans, though, 8-8 is what I'm looking at for them. I feel so bad for Deshaun Watson. Boy, if I was Bill O'Brien right now, have fun filing those. Have fun come Black Monday. That's what I would say if the Texans miss the playoffs. But we'll see what happens with that. With the Jacksonville Jaguars, Gardner Minshew now will be the starting quarterback going into the season. 7-9, I think, is what they go. Still trying to figure out what they need to do, but I think Gardner Minshew last year when Nick Foles got hurt right away in his first game with the Jaguars, Minshew really stepped up as a 6th-round pick, did a really phenomenal job. But I think this year, though, might take a little steps back just because I've kind of seen it before with quarterbacks before when they step in They do a really good job. But now when it's their time, they kind of start to fade back a little bit because teams start to figure out how they really do. But I think though for the Jaguars, 7-9 is what they go.
Yeah, so for me, I actually got the Tennessee Titans going 12-4. I think they made really good improvement last year. They were just one game away from the Super Bowl. I really think the Tennessee Titans are going to make a lot of people surprised. Obviously, like you mentioned, Ryan Tannehill played really good last year. Derrick Henry, they have a really solid defense. And I obviously don't think that the Houston Texans are going to be the dominant dog in the division like they have been the last few years. So I'm going to give them 12-4 for the season. Houston Texans, I'm giving them 10-6 record. Ultimately, because I just believe in Deshaun Watson so much, J.J. Watt on the defensive side of things, and they have a pretty good defense for the most part as well. Definitely don't see them winning the division at all. Then we got the Indianapolis Colts. Phillip Rivers definitely is a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett, but I still think he's not what he once was. I wouldn't be surprised too if the Colts, were to finish 8-8 or 9-7, maybe even 10-6. But I'm just thinking about it from just watching Phillip Rivers the last few years. Hasn't really done anything too surprising for me. Nothing that stands out too much for me. He's getting older, obviously, so that's kind of why I'm giving them that record. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars. I still think they're a few years away. I like Gardner Minshew a lot. I still think he's, he still's got a little bit of work to do with that team. It's going to be a few years kind of thing for them, but definitely, they're going to make slow improvements as the years go on.
Yeah, for sure. I think for the Jaguars, they definitely are heading for good days, but still going to be a little bit of time before they do get back into contention. Boy, it was kind of exciting to see them back in 2017. They really had a good playoff run there too. Yeah. Again, one game away from going to the Super Bowl. That was really that was really fun to watch. But now moving on to the NFC North. Boy, a lot of my Bear friends are going to hate me now for this. But I had the Packers winning the division at 11-5. I know it's been a questionable offseason right there for them, but still I think with Aaron Rodgers being at the helm for Green Bay at quarterback, obviously Aaron Jones still being there at running back. I think for the Packers, though, they do kind of have the upper advantage right now to win the division. Definitely going to be a competitive one for sure, as you can see in my record predictions. But I think Green Bay does take 11-5. But hey, if Rodgers gets hurt, good luck. That really, your season is over just like that if you're Green Bay. For the Chicago Bears, I'll admit I'm being kind of biased here. I have them going 9-7. I know this year they're projected not to do so well by some people, like the guy sitting right here next to me. But I think for the Bears right now, I know defense, we all know, dominant defense. You can argue top 10 last year. I think they were in top 5 still, honestly. Top 4, top 5, whatever it was. If they can stay healthy defense-wise, they're going to be really good. But the offense still is where it really comes down to how they actually are as a team overall. But Trubisky, happy birthday, by the way. I'm sure he's not getting a lot of good birthday wishes right now.
He's probably throwing some picks in the backyard.
He doesn't even throw a lot of picks. He's just not consistent with the football. That's his problem. He doesn't even throw a lot of interceptions. Okay, anyway.
There's just not a lot he does well.
Well, okay, whatever. Gosh. Okay.
We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah. That's probably never. Okay. Yeah, but for the Bears, though, 9-7, again, with the quarterback competition going on with Nick Foles and Trubisky. With Trubisky, he's not consistent. With Foles, he's made of glass bones and paper skin. So I think with the Bears quarterbacks, they have a fragile guy and a guy who's not consistent. Although I think for the Bears, though, they have we'll see what happens. Offensive-wise, hashtag extend Allen Robinson, please. I think they need to do that quickly here. David Montgomery looking really good this offseason, building a lot of good speed there, is what they're saying in training camp. So we'll see what happens with that. With the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going 9-7 as well. It's been kind of a rough offseason for the Vikings. Obviously, they did they signed Kirk Cousins to a contract extension, but did lose some guys. I know on defense they lost Everson Griffin there in the offseason, but I still think the Vikings though can maintain still an over 500 record. And for the Lions, well, they're the Lions, so
yeah,
5-11. I mean, Stafford's really good. He just needs to go to a new team where he can actually win there. Put a good team around him. TJ Hawkinson, former Iowa tight end, really good. But I think overall, though, for the Lions, 5-11 is where they will be at. Again, it's been kind of just up and down lately for Detroit last year, really struggling this year. Kind of about to be the same results. Probably 2 more wins, though, for them. But, yeah, 5-11 is what I have them at.
So for mine, I also have Green Bay winning the division. I have them winning one more game at 12-14 on the season. I just think Aaron Rodgers, he's a bad, bad man, as Stephen A. Smith would say. Definitely see him playing pretty good next year. Vikings, obviously, they had a pretty good season for the most part last year. Definitely think they're going to be pretty good as well. Still a little bit behind Green Bay. I don't really think anybody's going to beat Green Bay next year. Obviously, like you mentioned, if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. I wanted to put the Bears at 2-14, but I thought that was a little bit unrealistic. So I saw it, 7-9. That's pretty much what
Debatable.
Yeah, a little bit. So I ended up putting them at 7-9. I just think there's too many question marks right now for the offense. Obviously, the defense is good, and they're going to definitely keep them in games throughout the season. But I just think the offense has way too many question marks at this point. And the Detroit Lions, like you mentioned, yeah, they're just the Lions. Stafford, he definitely needs to play healthy if they want to, go up. I definitely think they're going to be less than 800, even if he does stay healthy for the rest of the season. But it's just he's been injured throughout the years, and I don't know how durable he really is. So obviously we know what he's capable of when he is at his best. But he's endured a lot the last few years. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely going to be fun to watch, I think, here. And now moving on to the AFC North. Talking about there, Baltimore, not too long ago, there with Dez Bryant. I think Baltimore goes 12-4 this year. Obviously, that's 2 wins less than last year, but it's kind of hard to always repeat that type of performance that you have. I think 12-4 is still a very good record right there for them. I think Lamar Jackson comes out, still does a really good job. Don't know if he'll top off his same numbers like he did last year, but he'll definitely still be a very dominant quarterback for sure. With Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger coming back, I think they go 9-7 this year. Going to be a little, again, we'll see how that's all going to go for him. Obviously, Roethlisberger getting up there now into his, to his late 30s now, so we'll see what he can do coming off the elbow injury last year that he had there in week 2 early on. But I'll give credit to the Steelers. They did a good job still hanging in there with Mason Rudolph there. I thought they did a phenomenal job. They're still with the Browns. I know it may sound kind of crazy, but I do have them going 9-7. Last year I had them going, I think, 10-6 or whatever when I used to do another sports radio show. But when but for the Browns this year, they got a new coach and Kevin Stefanski. He was the previous offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. I think him and Baker Mayfield will do very well together. You got still Odell there, Jarvis Landry. You signed Austin Hooper too from the Falcons, so I think that's a really good addition right there for the Browns to have them now get over 500. Who knows? They can make a possible playoff run. Again, possible with a lot of emphasis on there. But I think, for the Browns, so that will be a much steady improvement there, going 9-7 if they can go at that record. For the Bengals, got Joey Burrow now as your quarterback there. Andy Dalton now is no longer there, so this is Joey B's time. 6-10, I think, is what they would go. Obviously, last year that's a much better improvement. I know 6-10 record-wise, still not good, but for the Bengals though, that is a step in the right direction for them as well. So I think for the Bengals, though, and Joey Burrow, it's just about kind of getting your feet wet this year, show what you can do. And I think for the Bengals, though, just kind of move forward from there. But this division, I think Baltimore, no doubt, has the upper hand for sure.
So for my AFC North predictions, I also have the Baltimore Ravens going 12-4. I just think they're obviously the dominant team in the division. I definitely think Lamar Jackson is going to have a really good year as well. They signed Dez Bryant, another key offensive weapon for them. So I think they're definitely going to be the top dogs to be in the AFC North. Definitely think it's going to be good for Ben Roethlisberger to come back for the Steelers, help them get up. Definitely don't think they're going to be the top seed like they once were when they were just beating up everybody. But definitely it will be good to have them back. Juju Smith-Schuster obviously has been really good the last few years, even when Roethlisberger was injured. So I got the Browns also going 8-8. I definitely think Baker Mayfield will make some strides. I definitely think they'll be 500, maybe a little bit above 500 this year. Odell Beckham, I definitely think he has to get the ball more touches throughout the season. Freddie Kitchens did not really do a great job, in my opinion, of getting Odell touches from Baker, so it's going to be interesting to see. And then I got the Bengals going 5-11. It's a typo on my end. Excuse me for that. But I also, so I do have them going 5-11. I think, they still have a lot of work to be done, kind of like Jacksonville. I think Joe Burrow will definitely help the wound of the bleeding from that team. But I definitely think they are still a year or two away from kind of being an actual contender in the AFC and including the AFC North in that division as well.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of good predictions right here. I would say, obviously, we got some differences, which I think is good for sure. But I'm definitely excited. I mean, of course, now I am getting a little excited now for football season as we talk about it.
Yeah.
But definitely going to be really curious to see how everything is going to work out. Obviously, still a lot of unknowns, of course, like we talked about here earlier. But I think right now, though, when you look at what teams have done here in this offseason to try and improve, to see what they can do in free agency and in the draft as well, definitely going to be an exciting time for sure. So looking forward, to hopefully a full football season. But again, we'll have to wait and see how this is all going to play out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we're hoping for a football season, like a lot of you out there as well. It's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully, they can finish it. But yeah, kind of when we were talking about it a little bit, definitely getting excited for football. I know it's right around the corner. It's going to be amazing for it to be back, and hopefully it can just stay around and without any interruptions, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be weird without preseason, because preseason is to kind of get the rust off, get up to speed and stuff. But I think a lot of teams will be kind of starting off a bit slow here. But preseason, I mean, it's always been kind of up in the air. Do you really need preseason? It's mostly just for the young guys to get those reps in, to show who can make the final roster, because we know preseason, that's going to be a really critical moment for those rookies that were drafted in the 6th, 7th rounds, even a lot of undrafted guys as well. That's a really critical time right there for them. But I think, no, without preseason, no, I think at this point I had to take it one day at a time, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, like I said, hopefully we have football season at a full, at 100%, not, get into weeks, 4 or 5 where Roger Goodell makes the sad announcement where they're suspending the year or the season indefinitely. But again, I'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, no, it's been a great show. Good that it was great to be back. I know, last week was really tough. Not the way, of course, we wanted to start off our this new chapter. But hey, we're back though, and we will be back next Wednesday. Of course, at 7 p.m. and then next Tuesday after that, get back to our normal scheduling right there. But yeah, good show tonight. Thanks again for being here. It was a great show. Definitely excited for a lot of these NBA matchups happening here. And yeah, it's just been a good time to be a sports fan as of right now. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen here. But yeah, like I said, take it one day at a time. It's been really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And excited for next Wednesday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about next Wednesday here, too. Well, that'll do it for us here from Timeout with the Guys. I am Brad Burton. He is Carter Foley. Be back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Take care.